A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're located and whatever your time zone is. Welcome to your hour, and this is Rita Gadi, together with my partner, my friend, my idol in many ways, Bono ADAZA. Good afternoon.
Good day, Rita. It's good to be back.
Yes, of course. It's been quite a while. I understand you were busy actually writing your, I don't know, is this the 10th book that you have on SCED? And then, of course, the 10th
antigen test.
Already, yes. And then, of course, well, some cuffing somewhere in between. I would like to consider it really just a horse throat or whatever. But I'm glad that all is well. You know how it is. We have all sorts of names for this virus that has been causing this pandemic, starting with COVID-19. Before it was called the SARS virus and so forth. Then you had the Delta, and then you have the, I don't know, a French name which sounds like Uhu or something. And then you have this Omicron. Whatever it is, it's there. And as we've said, viruses don't die. They just look for their clients or their wherever they can settle. And sometimes they mutate for the better, meaning that they're not very harmful anymore, or they mutate for something worse. And so let's not hope that that would happen. But today is the 25th of January, Bono. It is a day which some time back, President Duterte declared it as the day of mourning. I'm sorry, not mourning, a day of remembrance for the SAF 44. It is also the birthday of former President Corazon Cojuangco Aquino.
Oh.
So what an ironic coincidence of dates, but I think both of them would really have to be remembered in more ways than one. So I already posted in my Facebook post my first and only encounter with the President Corazon Aquino, and the reason why we met for the first time and only time, and as I've said, a strange occurrence, but something which I've always acknowledged as the strange ways by which our Lord God really arranges our lives. So we met at the wake of the sister of my mom, who was the nun in St. Teresa's. And little did I, when we saw each other, she looked at me and I looked at her, and we were both surprised. I was the only one there actually in the novitiate where my auntie was, where the wake was being held. And almost at the same time, we both asked each other, how are you related, to the dead? So I had to tell her that she's the younger sister of my mother. And when I asked her, and you, Madam President, how are you related to her? And my goodness, she said, she is my guide. She is my anchor. She has helped me in so many ways, and then et cetera, anyway. So we chatted for about almost 4 hours. And that was during the campaign period already for the next president after her. But then again, as I've said, all of you will have, all of those listening to me, will have many memories of that time, and of course of the lady who was the icon of the EDSA, people power. And then of course, Bono was with her for quite a while. And then the other day that we have to remember was the, they call it the massacre of the SAF 44, another another tragedy that occurred sometime back, and this was in Mindanao. And then, of course, to this day, that is where we still have to find resolutions why this is happening. So that's January 25. And those of you listening to us here and abroad, it is an important date for two different occasions. So be that as it may, it's our prayers that will go a long way. So Bono, with our program this afternoon and with the campaign, we used to call it a circus, but with the campaigns that will be starting in about a week from now, that's February 8, I understand, the start of the campaign for all the offices that are open for elected positions. And can you imagine, Bono, ang dami? President, vice president, senators, Congress, representatives in Congress, governors, mayors, the provincial boards, city boards, ang dami nila lahat. So whatever it is, we're going to have a long ballot. And again, the act of suffrage, which is both a right and of course, which is a responsibility. Now, the title of our program, Bono, is Searching for the Ideal. And that's the question that perhaps you could help us answer. Should we have this sense of an ideal in our candidates for our country, for the presidency? Should we have this? Or do we just simply settle for whatever is there?
No, we should have an idea. As a matter of fact, I've been saying that all candidates for president should have a vision. The main problem is many of them, if not all of them, have no vision. They only have ambition. It's not enough to have ambition. You've got to have a vision of what the country should be. As a matter of fact, so many people before, not only in the Philippines, but specifically in the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos writing a book on the new society, his concept of what the country should be. And these particular types of books have been written about in many countries in the world, specifically in the United States of America. Well, Woodrow Wilson, New Freedom. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, New Deal. Harry Truman, Fair Deal. John F. Kennedy, the New Frontier. And then Lyndon Johnson, the Great Society. But in the Philippines, Marcos wrote the New Society, and he had a vision of what the country should be. In my own way, on a micro level, when I became governor of Misamis Oriental, the title of my concept of what the province should be is the New Horizon. Now, Rita, I'm writing a book, the New Horizons manual to build the country in specific application to the Philippines. Because I think it's about time. It's about time that the presidential candidates should have an idea of what the country should be if they get to be president. It's not just motherhood statements. All of them are involved in motherhood statements. You have to have a unified concept of what the country should be. As you said, idea. The idea, concepts built into an idea like the New Horizon in an effort to build the country for the Filipino. Not really for the Filipino, because in my mind, in this New Horizon, I am proposing the change of name of the country. The Philippines is named after Philip, no?
From Philippines to what is your proposal while we're at it?
The proposal is we should name this country after an area that has never been colonized by foreigners and by Manila. And that's Mindanao. Mindanao. That should be the name of the new country. Why? Well, as I said, it's never been colonized completely by foreigners or Manila. We defied Manila in many ways. And as a matter of fact, by way of reminiscence, when the opposition in Metro Manila had a conclave here, they decided to boycott the elections in 1978. And in that particular conference, I told them, why can't you participate in elections? The president is challenging us to participate in the election. President Macapagal was saying, no, that will legitimize Marcos. He said, Mr. President, this is not the United States of America. This is not Britain. This is not France. Legitimacy in the developing country is possession of power. No, President Marcos is giving us an opportunity to contest his power in this election.
Exactly.
Why should we not participate? Said, no, it will legitimize. President, I'm sorry. I respect your views and the views of the majority here, but you also respect mine because this is a decision of conscience. You know, Mr. President, the only alternative to election would be the armed revolution. Are you prepared to join the armed revolution? Because I am.
That's a valid question, yes.
And everybody was silent. So I said, in which case, I am organizing a regional political party, accepting the challenge of President Marcos. And I organized Mindanao Alliance, which landed in the front pages of the newspapers.
The newspapers, yes. Bono, I feel like standing up and saluting you when you mentioned Mindanao as the name of our country, because Mindanao has never been subjugated or colonized. Both of us are from the island of Mindanao, and really I feel like standing and saying congratulations if that would be the case. But let's go further into history as far as that's concerned, and precisely why at this particular stage, you mentioned something about the New Horizon, which I am attaching to that long line in that Impossible Dream song, The Man of La Mancha, when Miguel Cervantes must have thought of that also, how impossible it is, you know, to brave the windmills and his dreams and so forth. But that's exactly what we're searching for, Bono. An ideology, some kind of a baseline where even though the system now makes it very difficult and almost impossible to have candidates who have this in mind, if you listen to the first salvo that we had of these candidates, with the exception of Ferdinand Marcos Jr., all these other candidates began just by simply answering the questions, but none of them came up with just one line to say, this is the ideology that I have for the people and for the country. None of them spoke of that at all, even in the and when they were trying to explain many of their stands. So again, we asked that question: why do we keep on hoping that there should be some kind of an ideological base for our country, or for governance for that matter, when, none of these candidates that we have today, perhaps in the past, prior to 1986, we had statesmen who had this ideological base, but after 1986, wala na. I say that Marcos was the last and perhaps the only one who had this book actually on the Filipino ideology. But nonetheless, that's the question, Bono. As you said, it is important to have that vision, but it is not just a grandmother or a mother statement. It is actually a foundation. It is fundamental. And that perhaps is what we're searching for. And as we speak, we address not just the candidates, but also the voters, because our voters are just used to what they see and what they hear. Guwapo ba ito? Marunong bang kumanta? Ano ba? Saan ba nanggaling? So that's the backpack that they carry. Yung isa, ang laman ng backpack niya, boxing gloves. Yung isa, ang laman ng backpack niya, yung mga kinain niya sa pagpag. Yung isa, dala niya yung mga experience niya sa pagkapulis. Yung isa, tungkol naman sa natutunan niya sa kanyang asawa na namatay sa airplane crash. So, and then you had, of course, the junior, ang bit-bit niya sa backpack niya, yung nanay at tatay niya. So hahanapin mo sa kanilang mga bit-bit, Bono, sa kanilang mga backpack. What is it that they're carrying with them when they enter the seat of power, which has something to do with the people? Yan.
They're carrying baggage, Rita.
Pardon?
Baggages. They're carrying baggages. And the content of the baggages are nothing.
We still would want to go back to the definition of a democracy: of the people, for the people, by the people. Meron ba sila niya nadala? For the people, of the people, and by the people. So that's again a question. See? So,
You know, Rita, I'm writing this book, The New Horizon. Hopefully, because it's a very thin volume. Hopefully, it should be out before the end of February, so that it could serve as a guide for the presidential candidates. Hopefully, they have time to read it, if at all they read. No, if at all they read.
if
But
at
if they
all,
don't
yes.
read, it's designed for the young men and young women who dream dreams for this country, for our people, for generations of Mindanaoans to come. Because dreamers are the ones who build countries, Rita. They build the world. These are dreamers. It's even those dreamers who do not realize the dreams. There's
That's
so many of them
exactly-
who don't realize, but I salute them
Yeah.
because for dreaming dreams, for not for themselves, but for the country and the people. That's why in a column that I am hoping to post this week, I am writing the third portion of the New Horizon for New Beginnings. And I mentioned my encounters with revolutionaries like Andres Bonifacio through the books, and Luis Sarok personally. I have had several interesting encounters with Luis Sarok. And I think it's worthwhile to think about these people who dream dreams, even if we are not able to achieve their dreams in the process. As a matter of fact, we have dreamers who live so far away. I have a poem about Jose Maria Sison. He's dreaming dreams for the past 50 years. But I salute him because despite the fact that he's not winning, he's so far away from the Philippines, he continues with his dreams. Though I do not agree with his dreams that he has for the country. The ideology, I don't. That's why I'm writing this book. And the main basis of this book is really what you said, the democratic system, based on Thomas Jefferson's American Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creators with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to achieve these ends, government are instituted among men.
That brings it now to that question, Bono. Are we really created equal?
Well, not in the physical sense, but the equality that they're talking about here is the equality before the law and the equality in society. That's the equality that Jefferson is talking about. And as a matter of fact, President Magsaysay, borrowing the lines from Thomas Reed Powell on social justice, is, those who have less in life should have more in law. Those social justice, those who have less in life should have more in law. That's why in this New Horizon, the different ideas I put together starts with these beautiful germinal ideas of Thomas Jefferson, whom I like so much. Then welfare state, lean and clean government, system change. So many things to be changed in the system. Justice system, for instance, it should completely change. Political system, it should completely change. Economic system, completely change. So many changes, but these are very few chapters. Everybody can read it and read it.
But that's precisely the point we've been making, Bono. I think as early as the late 1960s and early 70s, we already had that proposal from Mindanao, as a matter of fact, to have this fundamental law changed and amended already so that it can answer to what we have been advocating ever since, a parliamentary form and a federal type of government. And when we speak of that, as you said, these are not just words that we declare and they float in the air. As you said, imagination, your images, your ideas, your ideology, they're far better than knowledge and brilliance. It was Albert Einstein who said this, as a matter of fact. You can have all the bright ideas, but if you do not have imagination, you're nothing. That is where your dreams come out, Bono. That's exactly what you're saying.
Lean and clean government. For instance, what do we have today? a Congress of two houses with 320 members. In my proposal is we should have only 39 members of parliament, 3 representing each region. There will be 13 regions or states, because this has been well studied during the time of Marcos, Rita.
Already, yes.
And I think we should have discarded things simply because they were proposed during the time of Marcos. That's the problem with this country. We discard the things that are valuable simply because they are presented in the past by opponents or by people we don't like. Even in my province, no? I have so many projects consistent with the projects of the national government and USAID, which are good for everybody, but never pursued after I left the governorship. Why? Because it's ADAZA. And in my, Rita, in the markings in my project, this is what I said. I said that this is not the project of attorney of Governor Daza like the others. This is the project of Mayor so and so, Governor so and so. This is a project of the province of Misamis Oriental, with the help of the national government and USAID on the initiative of Governor HOMOBONO ADAZA. It's only my initiative, but the project's not mine. It's the project of the people.
Exactly.
It's a manner that the projects are for the people of the Philippines. It's not ours.
Precisely. We forget,
like now,
we forget this, Bono, and perhaps we just take it for granted. Is our government for the people, by the people, and of the people? That's the baseline. So when you say something about system change and all of this, the fundamental law that we have to bring out a government for the people. You're mentioning all of these numbers of those that are going to be elected. Are they for the people? Are they of the people? Are they by the people? You see, we forget all of that.
Many of them, Rita, are of the people, OFF. For the people, FOL, and by the people, BUY.
Oh my goodness.
That's what's happening.
That's exactly what it
democracy.
is. So,
it's democracy.
Yes. You mentioned something about system change, and that system changes precisely with the change of the system of government, the system of law, the system of our courts, the system of our bureaucracy, all of this.
Right.
And that all goes down to a new constitution, which would simplify and which would clarify and which would be exacting as far as those systems are concerned. I always go back to the metaphorical symbol that Professor Clarita Carlos uses when it comes to describing our situation, political situation. Because there was a time when I was telling her that, is it still possible that we can change, as he said, the numbers, 320 congressmen, 24 senators, you have all of these mayors, governors, etc. And you know what she said? Hintayin na lang natin sila mamatay, Rita. In other words, there can be no change anymore in the person. So I said, what happens? What kind of change can we have? And that's when she said, the change in the system, exactly as you're saying, Bono. And so she used the metaphor. Para kang gumagawa ng leche flan. Hindi yan mabubuo kung wala yung holma, where you put the mixture of the eggs and the sugar and all of that. You will never be able to form that leche flan if you don't have the container, the holma. So that's the system that all of these politicians, etc., will have to enter into. Yeah.
Inspiring examples in the world for system change.
Okay.
It's unfortunately for many, these examples are revolutionary examples. Like one of the most powerful leaders of America in its neighboring country, in Cuba, General Batista. They say, well, he's a dictator, but he's our dictator. It took two people to dream of changing the landscape in Cuba, Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, and they succeeded in change. Yeah. Before, when Chiang Kai-shek was ruling China with the support of the United States of America, and you mentioned people like Mao Zedong, Chu Enlai, Chu Ti, the massacre in Shanghai, and then the long march to Yan'an. By God, You will
Millions,
never conceive the idea that these
millions
people will
died
succeed.
along the
But
way.
these are dreamers, and they succeeded, Rita. There are distortions that later followed. But the fact remains is the dreams of these people were achieved. Let's go to Israel. Ben Gurion, Menachem Begin, Golda Meir. Who will ever think that a country like Israel in the center of the Arab world will be created and will be more viable than many of the countries in the Arab world? Nobody thought. It took 3 people to do it. And of course, Musi Dayan, the 4th one.
And of course, the United Nations that declared them a state, Bono. Let's not
Yeah,
forget that.
by the way,
1948, you had all the countries signing that declaration and
last vote,
renaming the country known as Palestine from ancient times as Israel. My goodness, Bono. I will always have that argument against that particularly.
the
Although
vote
we
that
signed-
made Israel a country, Rita, is the
Although we
Philippine
signed
vote.
the declaration, yeah, we can go into that debate. But let's get back to the home ground, Bono. And that's precisely it. We had the Philippine Revolution, short-lived as it may be, 1896, 1898, natapos na. The execution of Jose Rizal earlier, you had the execution of Fathers Gomez, Burgess, and Zamora, and then you had the assault here, the first attack on the Pulverin here in San Juan, my city, as a matter of fact. But the country was never able to be united, Bono, to be just one unified arm that you could say as a Philippine Revolution. You had pockets of this. Bohol was one of the longest. You had the Ilocos region. You had several other areas, but not a united Philippines, Bono, for that kind of a revolution. That's
There will
precisely
be,
it. We
Rita,
are archipelagic. We're geographically divided. So I don't know where that unity of a revolution would be coming from.
unity in diversity. It's a dream, Rita. The dream is a uniting factor for our people. We dream dreams. We build country for the people of the Philippines, not for politicians, not for oligarchs. Why should, for instance, Rita, I'm asking this question, why should educational institutions be owned by private individuals and private institutions? When these are service functions for the people, these should belong to the government. Hospitals, why should hospitals be owned by private persons or private institutions? These are service functions designed for the health, preservation of the health, and promotion of the health of the Filipinos. Why should water, electricity be in the hands of people and at the expense of our people? That should not be the case. In this concept of New Horizon, I built them together, submitting it to the people, to the young people of this country, because these are the dreamers. I mean, you and I, we're young. It's not a question of age.
Course, yes.
Youth is not entirely time of life. It's a state of mind.
Are we moving towards some kind of a socialist
Yes.
platform, Bono? Because the way you say it, and all of the services should belong to the people. Of course, veering away from the strictures of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin and the rest of them, and veering away from the Cultural Revolution of Mao Zedong, which now becomes a capitalist revolution of Xi Jinping. You see how they have metamorphosed, as a matter of fact. So we are here at this stage, and we are looking far out into a new horizon, as you said. But then again, is it just you and I looking at that new horizon? What makes you believe that our young people now, who have at the tip of their noses and the tip of their fingers, the cell phone, where you have the games, where you have Google, where you have instant information coming from wherever it is that you need it and whatever it is that they feed you. And so when you ask, where are the youth of the land if the Rizal were alive today, then perhaps the best answer would be they're in front of their mobile phones. So where is the horizon for this young people?
Rita, I am using my own experience to just inform the people that the impossible is only in the mind. At the University of the Philippines, they were telling me, the president was doing impossible to have a strike for the election of the UP president. I spearheaded it, and it happened. The Opposition said, we will not participate in the election. We created Mindanao Alliance and then cropped up regional parties, CCA of Climaco, Timik, Tiumili, Bicol, Saro, Laban. They cropped up all over the country. The impossible happened. The impossible happened. They said, no, even my wife was telling me, what's the matter with you? You want to run for governor? You must be crazy. You have no money. You have no organization. You're fighting Marcos. You're fighting Pelaez. The people of Misamis Oriental elected HOMOBONO ADAZA as president. The impossible happened. So, Rita, in my life, the impossible is only in the mind. I'm not saying there are about 1 in every million who are dreaming dreams like you and me. 1 in every million, meaning 110. And in the words of the Australian journalist, during the time President Marcos said, the time of President Marcos will be challenged by 1 of the 65 million who will respond to the challenge of death. Now, a very figurative expression.
And it happened, yes.
And here in this country, we will respond. There will be people who will respond to the challenge of death in changing systems. Because Rita, as Edmund Burke said it, the only reason for the triumph of the forces of evil is that good men do nothing.
Yeah, here we are, Bono. We've been at it for so long, as far back as, well, I don't know how long ago it was, but
as far back as Rizal, if not Lapu-Lapu.
Precisely. Sometimes my children kid me about this when they say, Mama, you always talk about historical data and all of this. And I said, well, I go back as far as I can reach it. And even though we can speak with authority about the period that we know, it is still, it is factual when we speak of this. You should read Bono ADAZA, I said. He speaks of these men that we do not know anymore today, but these are the men then. Whenever there were elections, especially national elections, the choices that were offered to the people, you can just look at the qualifications of these men. My goodness, Bono, statesmen talaga ang hirap. In every, there were only 2 parties, in case the young people are listening to us. We just had 2 political parties. But each of these 2 presented to the people really outstanding candidates who, if you look at their credentials, and you look at the credentials of what we have today, and even for the past 35 years, oh my goodness, they pale in comparison. So here we are, Bono, to dream the impossible dream, sabi mo nga, pwede pa yan. But we have the reality in front of us now. And when we listen to these realities that are presented to us on a smaller scale, even the candidates for our representatives in our respective districts, or the mayors and the governors where we are located, parang wala ka nang mapagpilian when you really want to look beyond all of them into your dream. That is the title of our program, Bono, Searching for the Ideal.
That's why, Rita, system change. For instance, what's my proposal in the New Horizon? Erase towns and provinces. Build cities and states easy to manage, few people to manage, and less expense. Effective government. So much duplication. Cities, towns, governors. By God, we should have a governor of a province, like in the United States of America, a state. Governor of California, and the rest are cities. Easy to manage, or cities or counties, whichever. And we can do that here in the Philippines. Like in my province, for instance, there are 24 municipalities. Okay. Divide the 24 municipalities into 6 cities. Yes, plus the 2 cities in existence there. Easily manageable and less expense. Now, mayor, so many 24 mayors, vice mayors, councilors, busy doing nothing except to enrich themselves. So,
oh my goodness. Bono, that is the dream that you are writing down or have written.
Right,
That's
right.
the dream that you are presenting to our people. I am talking of the reality in front of us today. you have all of these candidates, and their names are now going to be printed on the ballot, which we are going to vote upon. And that is why we ask these questions the way they are not asked. We just had this presidential presentation in a television channel, and one of them did not attend, and a lot of furor regarding that. And it doesn't really matter whether you attend or not attend, because you could hear them speak. They have all of this, they call them infomercials. They're supposed to be information commercials, or part of what they have in mind. But these are the things that have been repeated so many times. Kailangan iahon ng mga mahihirap, magpagawa ng mga bahay, magbigay ng ganito, gawin yung tulay dyan. As they say, the more you talk about the things that have already been done, the more it will become the things that are going to happen again and again. See, it's a repetition already of what was said before.
Yeah, Rita, the way the interviews are conceived, the questions are inane, very inane questions. For instance, in the interviews or in the debate, they will be asked, what is your vision of the country? What is your vision? Please define it for us. What is your vision of the country? And why is that your vision of the country? I mean, things like this, instead of, what's your idea about when you look at the Philippine flag, the American flag, or the Chinese flag? Very elementary. That's not designed for president. Ask them vital questions that will determine what they really intend to do for the country.
Nobody's talking about system change.
What's their idea?
Nobody's talking about system change. They all believe it has to be the way it is, the way it has been.
This should be asked. Do you believe in the present system? Why do you believe in the present system?
Do they believe in a change of government?
Do you believe in system change?
Yeah.
What is the system change that you have in mind? I mean, these are the questions that should be asked. By God. Yung mga interview na designed for elementary children, that's not the type of interview that we should have on the presidential level. We should elevate the thinking of our people instead of bringing them down to the level of our feet.
Perhaps that is the vital role that media really should play. It is not just merely repeating what has already been overly repeated. It is to elevate the level of thinking of our people, of the spectators. They should be able to bring them to a level of a higher form of understanding of the candidate, of their thoughts, of what there is for the future of the people. One thing that is so important that we always keep on forgetting is, what exactly do they mean by, alleviating the poor, etc.? Ano bang mga ibig sabihin yan? When you go into those details, ay gagawa ng maraming bahay, maglalagay ng tulay dito, and so forth. I mean, my goodness, so many things that could be brought about, as you said. How can we be able to cut down on the red tape of the bureaucracy, as you were saying? How can justice be administered effectively and judiciously as it should? What is the rule of law when you speak about it? And for themselves also, I mean, what do they see, not just in the tip of their nose, but what do they see in the far future, at least for the next 3 years of their term or the next 6 years? Is there anything at all? As they say, well, this is the map. What map? What does the map say? Can you describe to us what this map is? And then, of course, sometimes you really cannot expect that much. As you said, what is your vision? Maybe just a simple question. What are the books that you read? Perhaps from there we can get an inkling as to...
Rita, that's a fatal question. As they say, there are no embarrassing questions. There are only embarrassing answers, because their answers will be very embarrassing, I'm afraid.
What's the book beside you on your night table that you keep going back and forth? I think, the safest answer they would say would be the Bible. How can you argue with that? My goodness. So then I would ask them about the Exodus and the Genesis, why it was that they had to conceive Noah as the savior of the universe because there was a great flood.
they should be asked about Ecclesiastes and the
Well,
Proverbs and
of course,
Psalms.
that would be classic for them because now it is a time for laughing and a time for crying. I mean, it goes both ways. That's the yin and the yang of life itself, really. There is a book. I have it somewhere here. The title of the book is If. And maybe we should duplicate this and give it to the anchors or whoever is in charge of all of these presidential presentations, because the questions are very indicative of the character of the person. Like they will ask, if you were going to have one person in history to be your friend, who would it be? Or, if you were going to be the butler of a military general in the past, who is this general you would want to be the butler of? If there was one insect or animal in the world that you would want exterminated, what would it be? The title of the book is If. If you were going to spend yourself alone in an island, what book would you bring with you? If you were going to spend a night alone with an important person, who would this be? Mga ganyan, Anyway, that's supposed to be a game, but maybe that could be used as an indication of the quality of our candidates. But then again, Bono, the Constitution is so sparse. Imagine for the presidency, basta you reach a certain age, you're a Filipino citizen, you've lived 10 years in that place, that's it. Okay ka na. Should not there be changes in this?
Rita, let me say this. In this country, we should remember this very well. Unless we improve the quality of the system or we change our system constitutionally, nothing will happen in our lives. Nothing will happen to generations of Filipinos, but something will happen to the generations of Mindanaoans, Rita, if there will be system change. We continue working. We continue working for system change because that's very, very important in the lives of our people. Very important. And I hope that candidates will elevate the thinking of our people during the period of the campaign. When I campaigned for Governor of Misamis Oriental, you were telling me, sir, you better dance. Why? Is this a dance contest? Sir, you better sing. Why? Is this a singing contest? And then you better drink with these people. By God, I'm running for Governor of Misamis Oriental. I'm telling the people how I will handle this province, what are the things I will do. And they should judge me on that basis, not because I can dance or I can sing. Give that to the singer. Give that to the dancers. But for Governor of Misamis Oriental, the man who can make results for the lives of our people, that should be the case for the country. That should be the case. An idea, vision, Rita, the new horizon is the future of this country. I don't know, I'm very positive about things. I'm very positive about things. And probably that's the reason why God gave me enough life. No?
I think, Bono, we have reached that stage where we have stopped counting the years that are passing us by because we have stood on that ground for quite a while and we have grown hoarse and not tired, but continuously screaming out, as they say now in common language. You shout out all of these changes that we would want to happen. But Bono, you used a word which is quite intriguing, but which is very important. Elevate. Elevate them to a level of a higher level. But are our candidates in that level? Where are they going to elevate the people to if they themselves are not in that elevated level?
They are not in the position. That's why I was telling them, the governor is the teacher, this number one teacher of the province. The president is the number one teacher in the country. It's not just a classroom, it's the whole country. That's why the president should know what to do. On the first day of office, as Henry Kissinger said, if a man gets elected to be president, he doesn't know how to be president the first day of office, he will never learn until the end of his term. And we have seen many of them in this country and in other countries.
Then perhaps
They never
that could
learn
be, that
till
could be
the end of
another,
their term.
that could be another question that could be raised, even at this early stage. As you said, as soon as they occupy the seat of power, they should already know what to do. So you could ask them, who are you going to have as your Secretary of Health, or your Secretary of Justice, or your Secretary of Education, or your Secretary of Foreign Affairs? And perhaps by the names that they will mention, if they already have them in mind, we can determine the quality of government that we are going to have. And if we're going to elect this person into office with the kind of gang that he will be bringing with him, if I call it gang, or the group, or the technocrats, or whatever you would call them, that he would be taking in with them, then perhaps he would be best guided. And the people would understand, pwede ito. Kasi magagaling pala ang makakasama niya. See, has anybody really asked that question of them? And perhaps that is, as you said, to elevate them to a level. But where is their level? Perhaps we can determine their level if we know the people that surround them.
The level, Rita, the level is only up to their feet. We should elevate them to the level of their heads. To the level of the head,
that is also
not to the level of the feet.
Yeah, but the level of their heads is also precarious if there is nothing much between the ears, So,
You're right. But
as you said, elevation, to elevate, to bring them to a higher level. That is where the dream is, where the imagination is, where the ideas come from.
For instance, very elementary, but if they really want to read a book, maybe they should start with Harold Bloom's How to Read a Book. They should read that. A very interesting professor in, I think, not from Cambridge, Oxford, and then one university in the United States of America. You would think that it's too elementary. It's a very interesting book on how to read a book.
Maybe I would also like to make a recommendation. 2 books.
Yes.
One is by Robert Fulghum. All I Need to Know, I Learned in Kindergarten.
Yeah. I stumbled on that.
Yes. So I should fix the mess that I have done. I should return what I borrowed. I should not get what is not mine. I should hold the hand of the person beside me when we cross the street. It's many things. All I Need to Know, I Learned in Kindergarten. That's a good book they should read, because that's the foundation of what we now call good character and right conduct. That
should be his central idea in building an educational system in the Philippines. As I was saying, in the concept of New Horizon, in the first 3 years, development of character, love of countries and values, other than the primary skills.
Precisely, that they're not abstract words, they're actually being applied. And the other book I would recommend is a French book, but it already has an English translation, The Demigods. That's by Jean Lacote, and it describes several of the presidents and prime ministers of certain states that had to perform the role of a demigod to be able to unite their country and to be able to rally them for development and progress. You have Nasser, you have Suharto, you have Habib Bourguiba, you have Eli, Lastase.
You had Muammar Gaddafi.
Yes, of course, all of this, to be able to unite the people just by becoming the strong leader in a developing country. That's the demigods. You reach that stage when, like Habib Bourguiba was saying, we are suffering from a drought and people have no harvest, etc. And he took the microphone and in the loudest of his voice, he said, "It will rain. Tomorrow it shall rain. I will make it rain." Believe it or not, Bono, it rained the following day, for whatever that may be worth. But these are leaders who, by their eloquence, you already mentioned about, of course, Cicero and Marcus Aurelius and all of this. By their words, the people follow.
Yeah, my classic example, Rita, is the old classical reference to this. When Cicero spoke, everyone listened. But when Demosthenes spoke, everyone marched. How much more if you have a combination of Cicero and Demosthenes?
Precisely. To march to the rhythm of their words and
Yes.
to march to the rhythm of their hearts. If their hearts are for the people, by the people, and of the people. We go back to that, the basics and the fundamentals. Oh, Bono, we are searching for the ideal for our country, and the ideal for the candidates that are now being presented to us. Is there an ideal that you see?
The ideal I'm submitting is the New Horizon. Yes. It will be out, I think, by February. Very simple. The chapters are one page chapter. Very simple. It's a very simple book, easy to read and easy to buy.
Another question, begging for an answer. Is there an ideal in the candidates that we see presented to us?
None. None. None, I'm afraid. I'm saying that over and over again. But, I'm always making reference to many of my poet friends, and this time Kalidasa. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow a vision. But today we lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. By realizing the New Horizon within our lifetime, we can have the vision and the hope in reality.
Yes, indeed. So that is what we're hoping for, Bono. That is precisely why we have to look around us and look carefully. You mentioned, and coming from you, I have all the respect for the statement that you do not find an ideal in the candidates presented to us. So the question again that I have mentioned earlier, so whatever is there, pagtiyagaan na lang kung sinong andyan. Because,
Rita,
yeah.
Rita, yung tiyaga has lasted for a century in this country.
Already,
it's about
yes.
time we forget the tiyaga,
Yeah.
and really struggle for change.
But then, as I said,
Struggle for
hope,
change.
yeah, but hope, Bono, is not just an expectation. Hope is the hand that you hold today. Hope is the hand that you must hold today. That's exactly why a lot of people are saying na we're hoping na ito gagawin niya, we're hoping na ganito. No, it has to be today. The faces and the voices and the words that we hear today.
Yeah.
Exactly what will determine our choices.
Rita, the problem is the elections do not define the game. They do not define the game. In a country like the Philippines, still developing, searching for the ideal, as you said, the game is played in many ways. How it's going to be played in this country, we cannot be certain. We cannot be certain. But I pray that somewhere along the way, with the guidance of the divine providence, the game will be played right.
Oh dear, Bono. So we continue with our search. And the best that we can offer to our listeners and to our viewers and to those who are expecting the best that will come, that's exactly what Bono was saying, that we leave it to divine providence to guide us and to guide these people who are aiming for the highest seat of the land that will be doing us the favor of a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. But we are espousing likewise at this particular stage, the way we have done in the past, Bono and I, so many years back, maybe 70 years back, as a matter of fact, when we were already hoping for a constitution that would answer precisely the kind of life that we are that we intend to give to our people, that we intend to live for our children. And that's, again, the threshold that we're standing on today. And as Bono said, he is writing this guidance for us, this new horizon, which he not only sees, but which he actually can feel and can actually talk about. And it is not just a dream. So let us pray that all of you will have this dream likewise, not just what you see on television or what you hear as far as the others are concerned, but exactly what comes from your heart, because this is our country that we're talking about. And Bono, you've mentioned something about the X factor. What is your X factor?
The X factor, Rita, is someone who is real and whose program will be the New Horizon. But whether he will surface or not, I really don't know. Because as I mentioned, it's not enough to have a vision. It's not enough to be an organization. What is important is the logistical support that could result on election. Because even if you have a brilliant vision of the country, even if you have an organization, but you have no logistics, you cannot even fly to Cagayan de Oro from here. You cannot even you cannot even ride on your way to Baguio. It's it's idle dreaming. No, it's idle dreaming. You know, I am like a Sun Tzu warrior. Know thyself, know thy enemy. It's 100 battles, 100 victories. At this age and time, I am not the same Bono ADAZA that risk in UP. I am not the same Bono ADAZA that risk in the governorship of Visayas Occidental. I am not the same Bono ADAZA that risk in the parliament. I am chastened. I'm chastened and educated by my experience. Whether in a distant time or in a sooner time, I will surface once again is a very interesting question.
Precisely. And you are not going to surface in the future, Bono. You're actually surfacing right now. Every time we speak, we bring together what we know as the national or the country's memory. Because Bono and I have gone a long way from the past. We had candidates then for the presidency, and we had candidates for the Senate and for Congress. And as I've said, you call them traditional politicians, but in their own right, they were also outstanding. But time has circumvented many of these ideals that we had. And so we have compromised. As I've said in the beginning, pagtiyagaan na lang kung sinong andyan. It seems that it is repetitive already. And, but as Bono said, the X factor is when you are able to create in your mind the ideal that you believe is the best that could be for our country, then there is hope that one day that X factor will surface. Whether or not it is one of those that are the candidates now, it remains to be seen. But as I've said, if you ask the right questions to these people who are aiming to run our government for the next 6 years, then perhaps you can get an inclination or at least some indication that we would be a little better off than what it was in the past. As we've said, ask them, who are the people that will be helping him or her to run the government? And that perhaps would give us an inkling as to what we have to see in the future. But beyond that, wait for Bono ADAZA's New Horizon. It may yet be the summary of everything that we have dreamed of. So with that, Bono, I'd like to thank you once again.
Thank you, and God bless. And God bless this country and our people.
Indeed. So we are still searching for the ideal, but let's go. And as I thank Bono for having joined us, there are others likewise who have always been with us in this program. Let me see how we can go through this. Oh, we have Zonia Velasco, watcher from Dallas, Texas, always waking up at 3 a.m. weekly to watch your show. Thank you very much. 3 o'clock in the morning is the time when you should actually be very well tucked in bed, but thank you very much. Zenea Arcilia, good afternoon. To Rita Gadi, Bono ADAZA, bless you both. And she's listening from Hong Kong. Oh, you're very strict there in Hong Kong as far as entrance and exits are concerned. Joe Lorenzo Acosta, I remember there was a debate that happened between ADAZA and Albano. ADAZA on the side of Cory and Albano on the side of Marcos. Oh yeah, those were fun days when we had the parliament. Bono ADAZA was a member of the parliament at the time. We have Bederio Candido Joselito. Good day po. Ma'am Rita, Sir Bono, God bless. Watching from Riyadh. Assalamualaikum. We have Joy de Guzman. Wala po ganon. Meaning, wala tayong mahanap na ideal dun. Di na po sila nakikinig sa people. Oh, our politicians are no longer listening to the people. Anyway, so there are others who have joined us, but we have to close. I'm 1 minute over time. Again, thank you very much, Bono, for having joined us.
Thank you too, and God bless again.
And to all of you from all over the world listening and tuning in. We are on YouTube, on Facebook. You can watch us at any time. And for whatever it may be worth, continue imagining and dreaming that there is indeed not just hope, but there is something that you're holding in your hand that can make the Philippines a better place to live in, a new horizon, as Bono would say. Thank you. This has been your hour, and I'm Rita Gadi.
Ba-ba-da-ba-dum, ba-ba-da-ba-dum, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-dum.